Joining us now, he's the longtime head coach of the Baylor Bears. Of course, our good friend back on the show, Coach Glenn Moore, joining us here on In the Circle. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Eric.
How's the fall been for you and the team this fall?
It's been good. We just it's one of my favorite things about the game is just getting out and playing it without any pressure. You take away the recruiting aspect that has to be mixed in with the fall. It's a lot of fun. Move players around. Nobody really cares about the score, and you get to do it the old-fashioned way: sandlot, softball, and go out and help kids get better and have some fun doing it. So it's been a good fall for us.
You return a good nucleus from last year. I remember we spoke last year. You had so many young faces, new. You were very young. And you had your ups and downs last year, but you finished on a high note. You won the tournament in the NIC. Just talk about when you reflect back on last year. What comes to your mind?
Well, at the time when we made the decision to go to the NISC, it was a tough decision because our program expects to be in the NCAAs. And even though we didn't perform, even from our evaluation of our season, we didn't perform well enough to get in the NCAAs. When you look back at, in retrospect, 9 of our losses came from the top 3 finishers in the World Series. I think our strength of schedule may have been a little more of a benefit than we or should have been given more credit than we were in the schedule that we played. But we did have some critical losses that really hurt us. And so overall, that was a disappointment. Making the decision to go to the NISC was based pretty much on the age of our team being such a young team and wanting to get some more practices in. We were able to get 11 more practices, high intense practices in, and then finish with some competition where we were able to have some success and end up winning a championship. So I think it certainly was a good decision. The kids bought into it, practiced hard. We had a little fun while we were up there and enjoyed closing the season out. But make no mistake, that's not where we want to be. No disrespect to the tournament, but that's not where our program expects to be every year.
But and I've talked to coaches in the past that have been in that tournament and have done well. They've said that's helped them the following year. There's always been that improvement for many reasons: the extra practice, the extra games they get to play, plus the chip on that shoulder is like, oh, that this is what it's like to play in postseason. Ask because it is postseason, and you want what you're all competitive, and want to win. If you're going to be in it, you might as well win, and that could help you as you get into the following season. Can it not?
Yeah, I'm glad you put it that way because we sometimes lose sight of how much we really should and love and appreciate this game and the opportunity to go play. I want athletes that want that opportunity. I want athletes that just love being out on the field, love competition. And yeah, you want to always strive to be your very best. But whenever you've laid everything on the table and this is the result, and you still have opportunity to go play games, I want athletes that would still want to play in that situation. So the team bought into that and went up there. I was very proud of the way they handled it. They practiced hard. We had some of the greatest practices. Probably the chip on the shoulder that you mentioned played into that, but we got better. It helped us. It's kind of like the football team that gets to go to the bowl game. You get a lot more work in and you get better from it if it's handled the right way. And our girls certainly did that. It's a high risk, high reward because if you don't have a team that buys into it and they fall on their face, it could damage you even more than not getting in the NCAA tournament. But thank goodness it didn't work that way for us. Our girls bought in and they played really hard.
Well, and being a young team too helps. A veteran
Right,
team maybe is not as interested, maybe doesn't buy in, motivational why, but a young team is
right.
hungry to play. They're trying to learn, right? And that's part of the industry, right? It's still a teaching learning process, right? You have high expectations, but it's taught. You got to learn how to crawl and walk sometimes with some of the student athletes.
Yeah, that's a great point, and one that we made maybe not often enough with this team was we didn't want to rely on our age, and we didn't want to have excuses, but we were a young team. I think we had 2 seniors both playing the same position, first base, and sometimes we didn't even start a senior in that lineup. Now we return a team this year with only one senior on it still. So we're still a somewhat young but experienced team. So I'm excited about where we're going this year with that. But we needed that. It was good for us. We again redundant, but we got better.
You mentioned obviously the success of Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Texas, all getting to Oklahoma City, literally the last three teams standing at the end, and you nearly beat them. Like I mean, everybody remembers the Oklahoma game. We don't need to dive into that game in Norman, but you were close. Is that something you bring up to your current team about? Hey, we're not that. We could be right there if we just do the little things a little bit better in a couple areas. It's not like you're far off at all.
Yeah, I think that was something that we hit on early when we first reconvened back on campus. We talked briefly about it, but it wasn't long to realize for this team to realize that the transfers that came into our program along with the freshmen made us a lot better. Once we were on the field and we saw the performances of our middle infield, our pitching's a little stronger, we're a year older. I think it was pretty evident that this team should be back in the thick of things. We should be back competing for the NCAAs, and we've got a schedule that will allow us to do that if we come ready to play. We've had a good fall, as we mentioned earlier, and so we hit on that a little bit. But this program has enough pride in where we've been in the past, and the expectations are there. We certainly are not going to be satisfied with not playing as well as we should. And we didn't do that often enough last year. You hit on a few. There were some games where we looked like we were a top 20 team, a top maybe 16 team at times, but we didn't do it often enough. We weren't consistent enough. And I was not opposed to the committee's decision not to allow us in from our inconsistency, but this year we want to take it out of the committee's hands.
Who are the leaders on your team? Who established? Because I remember last year, you were so young that you even said, "Hey, that's still kind of a work in progress." Because with young people, it takes them a while to kind of figure it out, like either vocally or some like to know who they are as a person. Who are your leaders now? Do you feel you have established leaders here?
Yeah.
In the fall.
Yeah, we have, we've got good leaders and we have good followers this year. So it's been a good culture in the fall. Just a joy to go to practice with these athletes that know how to lead. Some try to lead and can't lead. You always have that struggle, and that's in all walks of life, not just in athletics. And this year, if I had to name some, Dari Orm is one that really can lead. Josie Bauer, our only senior, is going to be a leader. Different aspects of leading, making sure everything off the field is taken care of, and then leading on the field and leading in different ways. Mackenzie Wilson is one that leads by example and comes to work every day. We have some kids that really expect to play at a high level that lead in that capacity, and I would put Emily Hott there, and there's two or three that I think can lead in action, and then there's more that can lead in more of a vocal sense. But I think we don't name captains. It's just I've done it before in the past and didn't like really how it worked out. I like for those leaders to evolve, and hopefully the right ones will become your leaders. And this year, I think the ones that were to get that I would think if we voted on it would get the C on their jersey are the ones that I would pick as well. So, I'm thinking that they're rising to the top. The cream's rising to the top, and they're leaders in the sense of that we're going to do this together, and this is what's expected. And this program's been there before. We're going to get it back, but not a demanding, in your face type of leadership. It's just a good camaraderie and a good respect.
You mentioned Mackenzie Wilson. She led your team last year, 424 average, 27 steals, scored 53 runs, 70 hits, 11 doubles, 5 triples. You can see why she was an all Big 12 first team performer there. I know you were excited to have her, obviously, when she came over. What did you learn about her that you didn't know about her once she started playing?
Yeah, you threw out some pretty phenomenal numbers, and I'm not on the committee for selecting All-Americans, but her name had to be discussed when you look at the ones that made it. There's some pretty big names on there, so I get it. It's a tough job. But Mackenzie, judging from the All-Americans we've had in this program, she's she's right there. And not only that, if I can say it, she's an All-American off the field, an ambassador for our sport and our school. She's just a phenomenal person, young lady. So I guess I learned more about her personally than I did about her ability. I knew a good bit about what she was capable of. She's fought through some adversity. That's probably helped make her into the person that she is. She's a great example to not only young athletes, but in particular minorities that just really look up to her and idolize her. And I just really am impressed with how she handles herself. I think she's going to be a great journalist of some kind on some big network one day. She's well spoken, just a great face for our program.
You return a lot of players from your offense that hit 290. I think you had eight players last year that had at least over 20 RBIs. Pretty balanced. Emily Holt returns 331 average, among others. Just talk about the rest of your offense and what do you envision? And you do have a few new faces that you're trying to blend in with the team as well.
Yeah, pretty good balance. We've been for a couple of years trying to transition from more of a short game offense to more of a little bit more of a power offense. I feel this year we've got the capability of becoming what we've been shooting for. We still have a good balance of speed, a predominantly left-handed lineup offensively. And, I think we're just going to be I'm hoping we'll be a consistent situational hitting team with a little more power than we've typically had. So those are the things I'm hoping to see offensively. Just a threat 1 through 9. I think we have enough depth to where we can make some replacements from the dugout, from the bench if we need to. Someone's just not really seeing the ball well. We've got some big decisions to make as a coaching staff because several of our positions, and this is not typically the problem, which is a good problem with us because of being, a private school and equivalency sport. You don't typically have a ton of depth or quality depth that you feel comfortable putting in against another Power 5 opponent. I think this year we've got a little bit more depth than we typically have, and we still have some positions that are, we're going to have to wait and let the game dictate who can perform. So those are good problems to have. But I do think our offense will be more productive this year. Eric, I think I lost you there.
Oh, yep, sorry there. Got you back there. Speak to about Ormy and her performance and her growth that you've seen from her and maturation there in the circle and then the rest of the pitching staff.
Yeah, so Dar is, again, like I said, a leader. It's nice to have a leader that can perform. She is the hardest throwing pitcher that we've ever had in our program, consistently over 70 miles an hour, and obviously pitched that gem of a game against Oklahoma last year and has made a name for herself. Probably the struggles have come from not having enough to go with that speed, because great hitters can catch up to any speed these days eventually. And that's what she's focusing on in the off season, is developing the off speed. But she's a competitor. She's not afraid to go at any lineup. She wants the ball in her hands. And, she's, again, a great leader for us to have in the circle. But, along with her, we're going to have a pretty deep bullpen for the first time with kids that can, athletes that can compete against good lineups, a little deeper anyway.
Yeah, deep depth there is going to be key. And, you mentioned the schedule, Coach. You're going to start out in Las Vegas. UNLV, who you obviously played in the championship last year, is the host there. But you've got other competition. You got Weber State, who made the NCAA tournament in that field. You got Arkansas in that field. You're not going in easy to start out the year there in Vegas. You got Stephen F. Austin later at home the following week, among other teams there. Just talk about your schedule overall this year. You got Oklahoma coming in, which this is the second year in a row you're playing Oklahoma in a, quote, non-conference game, which is unique.
Yeah, it is. And, I don't know that a lot of people are as crazy as I am when to put them on your schedule 2 years in a row in non-conference games. But I love the competition. If they're considered the top of our game right now, we get to find out early how we measure up against that and what work we have to do. It's good for strength of schedule. And, I've been coaching long enough to where I want the competition. I'm not afraid of them. I don't want to play those teams every time you walk out on the field, but I certainly want to give our kids a chance to improve. And our goal is to get to the World Series every year. So we want to know who's going to be there and what it takes to get there. We'll be a different team in the end than we are in the beginning, as will everybody. But, Patty asked if she could get in, and we had opportunity to allow a team to come here that can draw a great crowd, be great for the community, and improve our level of play. You don't get any better by playing teams that you're better than. You get better by playing teams that are better than you, and that's what I look at when I schedule. I want to make sure I have enough teams in there that will make us better. We're going to Tennessee for a weekend. We do play Arkansas early. We play A&M, have A&M coming in for a tournament here. Haven't played them in years, just down the road. So we're looking forward to that. And, we have a pretty strong conference now in the Big 12 as well. So Minnesota, Maryland coming into a tournament. I think our schedule is going to really give us the feedback. It's going to prepare us for postseason. And I believe in giving our athletes the opportunity to pave a road to Oklahoma City, the best road possible, rather than looking back at the end and saying, hey, we ended up being a pretty dang good team, but we shot ourselves in the foot because our strength of schedule didn't prepare us. So that is rarely the case with our program. We're going to always try to schedule those games. We're not trying to pad stats. We're not trying to reach milestones with wins. Although we're competing, we want to be there in the end. We want to be the best we can, peaking at the right time.
No doubt. And it gets you ready for conference play too, which again, the Big 12 is the top 2, top 3 league. And you mentioned 3 teams in the World Series. So that the competition is just tough in the league this year. And it's going to get even tougher because next year, you got new members like UCF and Houston, who you're playing this year, ironically enough. You're playing them. So you're getting warm up there. They're going to be in the league next year. UCF will be joining them, and BYU, who you've played recently, will join the league. What's the league going to be like next year when those new members, and you still have OU Texas next year, so the league is even bigger than it's been in a while?
Yeah, it's fun. How about that? It's exciting days. You never know what next week holds. But this league is going to be a lot of parity. I think there's going to be some it'll keep you on your toes recruiting. It's going to broaden our recruiting footprint, give us an opportunity to go into some places that we maybe have not been as intriguing to recruit. So that's exciting. They're going to have the footprint of Texas as well. And of course, Houston already does. So I think our conference is going to be in good shape. We've got, some excitement in quite a few sports around here. Obviously, losing Texas and Oklahoma will, be it's a struggle to replace them. But at the same time, we have some pretty credible programs and markets that are coming into the Big 12.
Does that affect how you're gonna schedule, for example, next year with a larger Big 12 conference? How does that adjust? How do you if there's any adjustment to your scheduling you have to do because of that?
Yeah, I think it's going to take away a couple of weekends that we would normally need to fill, but we're going to fill them with quality competition. So you don't have to work as hard to schedule as we've had to previously. So so I think it changes it a little bit, but you're going to be right away. You're going to get out, hit the road running and playing good competition.
Couple topics in the sport. Instant replay obviously is becoming now bigger part of the game and postseason everything. What's been your thoughts on instant replay now that you're sort of seeing it now across the board?
Well, I'm a big fan of instant replay. I'm frustrated with a little bit of the I don't know if it's the quality of our equipment, I guess I'm drawing a blank on the terminology that we use whenever it's not acceptable evidence or whatever it's called, to be
Indisputable, yeah, indisputable,
indisputable.
yeah.
So many are not are disputable, and I think that puts the officials in a bad place, and doesn't do a whole lot for our game when we have too many of those. I don't know, the quality needs to improve, and hey, it's baby steps, right? We're going in the right direction. Um, I think getting the call right is important. There's a couple of things I'd like to see us get the call back when we win the appeal, and not be punished for a call going back to in our favor. So if we appeal and we win it, I think we should get that appeal back. So we only get two, and I think we'll move in that direction eventually, but that's not where we are now. I do believe volleyball went that direction.
Yes, volleyball
Um,
has the 2 challenges per set, and if you win your challenge, you get to keep the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to me, that makes sense. But again, it's a baby step, but we are going in the right direction, and I certainly am a fan of replay.
How has the league handled that as a whole? Have you been pleased with how the league is kind of handled it? It's a tricky process, I know, but do you feel pretty good about that direction from a league standpoint?
Yeah, I guess overall, it's just that we have different schools are using different equipment, and that's where we've run into problems. At least the feedback I'm getting from the officials is the equipment may be better at one school than
Right.
another, or we're able to use say a network that is broadcasting our game, use the live feed here, but we can't there, and vice versa. So we just need a little more consistency there, because I think there were several calls that we found out from our own video after the fact that we thought should have been overturned, that weren't. But I could see their point. If they can't see it clearly, they can't guess the call either.
No, it's part of the process. I think as the years go on, it'll improve, and people kind of make
Right.
adjustments with the equipment and everything like that. Another big thing that's going on in the sport in January, the vote for making the volunteer full-time position, the extra coach to the staff. It's something that's been talked about at length with baseball and softball in particular over the last few years. What's your thoughts on that from a coaching standpoint and a staff?
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. There are a lot of coaches out there that are struggling, trying to survive, support families on what they make in camps. And I think it's growing our sport. We have a lot of student athletes, many more demands on our student athletes than just coaching. And I'm looking forward to that passing. I'm hopeful that it will, and we will be able to compensate some of these coaches, and in turn draw more coaches into our profession. So there's more opportunities for them, more will choose to do that, and we'll have a better opportunity to serve the student athletes. The sport has grown into such a technical sport that is very demanding on the time and the instruction that you give the student athletes. And even from the top, the head coaches are becoming more management oriented, with more documentation, more challenges with mental health, more things that you have to do throughout the day rather than just plan practices and try to help a kid get better at her craft. So it'll be nice to see some of these coaches get rewarded financially, or supported financially for the time they're putting in.
No doubt. I think it's long overdue, and I think it should pass, and I think it'll be great for the sport. Because, like I said, Coach, I mean, other sports, not to call out any other sports, but a lot of the other sports have more full-time coaching staffs. With and here we are. Like I think I read where softball and baseball are among the least as far as having full-time coaches versus the amount of student athletes on a roster. It's kind of wild. Whereas other sports, it's kind of the other way around, where they have a lot of coaches for not as many athletes. It's just kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot of unanswered questions out there. The equivalency side of it is, that's a whole nother topic, just to try to figure out why baseball's on 11.7 and we're on 12 and carrying 20 to 23 on our roster, and, trying to get kids, and certainly being, again, back to being a private school, is $70,000 price tag per year. The equivalency plays a major role. And I'd certainly be in favor of some improvements there for our student athletes. And I think it would completely change the demographic of our sport as well. If we were able to lift the scholarship, obviously you couldn't stay at 12. You'd have to go to 18 or 20, but to have a head count sport would make it a level, more of a level playing field, I think.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic, as you said, for another time. We can spend
That's
hours
right.
on that one. I got two more questions for you. Talk about some of the new faces on your team that you think can make a difference that Baylor Bear fans might get familiar with.
Yeah, well, we've got a freshman pitcher that's going to be pretty good, and Riley Crandall. We're really excited about her. She's a great competitor. She was a Gatorade Player of the Year out in New Mexico and played for the Texas Glory organization, and certainly has turned some heads early. I think she'll have some time to grow with our upper class pitchers now, with Leah Benford and Dari Arm and even Casey West. So we're excited about her. The two middle infielders that we brought in, Presley Pylon and Amber Tovin, are as talented middle infielders as we've had. We're excited about their ability, and they actually played together in travel ball and transferred from two different universities, but are back together, reunited, and they've got just a natural chemistry that works really, really well. Shaylin Govin, transfer from a school in-state school that is a strong power hitter that's going to really, really make a name for herself early, and she did last year. We're happy to have her just to plug up some holes we had. We've got a freshman class that are certainly fighting for their playing time too, but really like the improvements we made over the summer.
And my last question is, what's going to be the keys for this team once you get going, you start the season in Vegas and so forth? What's going to be the keys for this team to get back to the NCAAs, accomplish your internal goals?
So it's going to boil down to, I think the team chemistry is good right now, but it's usually good at the end of the fall when you start naming a starting lineup and you start fighting. I like for them to fight more than in the fall than they like to fight, probably because it's time. There's a time to become a team, and it's not in the fall, in my opinion. You become a team a little bit later. So it'll depend on how well we mesh whenever we're all pulling in the same direction and we realize, hey, I've got a role to play. And it may not be starting every game, or it might be, and just really performing at a higher level. I think the expectations are there. Everything's lined up for us to be very competitive, but just raising the level of play, predominantly offensively. That's what we feel we need to make the biggest improvement in. And I think we're going to be a little more aggressive on the bases. Just getting in sync with the coaches and players, vice versa, and trying to execute what we have in mind. And, I'm just playing the game. This is a talented bunch. There's a lot of talented teams out there, but this team's talented. We don't have to come out of the gates hitting on all cylinders, but we need to get better every weekend and make sure that we're around, mid-March, that we know who our best 9 is and put them out there and let them go to work for us and compete every time we step on the field. And I think this team has the right makeup to do that.
Well, Coach, we're excited to see your team get on the field before you know it, and February gets around the corner. But in the meantime, thanks for coming on with us, taking the time. I know it's a busy schedule with coaching this time of year, but I appreciate you always coming on and talking to us. And thanks for coming on and talking, and we'll definitely look forward to doing it soon.
Well, we appreciate you, Eric. Thanks for having me, and you have a great Thanksgiving.